Welcome back to my website, Soul to Soul. I'm your host, Wayne Marentette. This will be number 6, I believe. 3, the originals were about Wayne. I hope you got up on it before you started this one. It may be the only reason why you're here. Then we did the first class that I actually offered you was on Sentiency, and the second one was on the science of impression. Before we begin our third class today, I'd like to review what we've already covered, sentiency and the science of impression. Now, I know I started off, give you a big picture. I said the universe is sentient. Every living thing is sentient, whether it be a blade of grass, a bush, a flower, a tree, a plant. Everything that's alive, everything that you can imagine in the universe, anything that is alive is a sentient being. It may only have one sense, 2, or even more, like us, or we have at least 5 or 6 or 7. But point is, sentient beings are beings of light and light intelligence. I'm going to go back and review the origins of the universe with you for a second, where I talked about my own experience in the afterlife with having a perception of how everything in our universe came into being and what it was. I was shown, now this is the part I couldn't prove, that there was a rhythm, a life, an existence, an all-knowing, all-fulfilling, unconstrained, unretained, self-existing energy that I call pure, formless wisdom. Now, the reason I called it that was those are the words that appeared in my consciousness to describe what I was actually experiencing. At that point, I was formless. I was spirit. But it doesn't mean that I was without the ability to communicate. As sentient beings, all the way up to formlessness, our communication is universal. In that pure formless wisdom, I was able to encounter and recognize other intelligent life forms that were also formless, but their expressions were combined, meaning we got to use the one mind, if you will, or the one consciousness, the one awareness that existed in the primary pre-existing time period that we call the quantum world. I go back even further and say that this is pre-quantum, that pure formless wisdom existed, pre-existed. And from this pure quantum potential came the first resonant vibration that we call life in the form of a temporal universe. In fact, in the very, very, very origins of the creation of universes, our universe was not the first one to be born, if you will. There were actually others. Now, I don't know the number, but I can tell you it was more than 9. And in that idea, I want you to think of a grand universe being formed first. And then on the outside of it, models of the same thing growing in there existentially from out of that into other universes. And this continues to this day. I would suspect that every year that goes by, there's another new universe that comes into being. But let me go back to our beginning. When pure formless wisdom in its integrated state began to resonate, it was a vibration that became a sound. And from the sound came light. From light came everything else. So we go back to the original sound. Some of you have heard Buddhist mantras where they announce the term OM, Om. You've heard it. Others have heard Aum, A-U-M. I was introduced to the A-U-M. The A was silent, nothing that anyone could hear. The U-M was the experience, the constant of coming into being. It was a driving force that initiated, like conception, our very spirit. And long after spirit had come into being, I'll say the universe had 3 dimensions, if you will, with regards to time. The first stage I call destiny. It's where all the energy that was going to come into being came into being after it was conceived. After the first part, destiny, which went on for millenniums, we came to the affinity stage, and that's where individual particles or geometries started to coalesce, come together to form the basis, the nerve center, the backbone, if you will, of our actual universe that we live in today. The third stage is called revelation. So we have destiny, affinity, and revelation. The revelatory part was our experience in separation from the formless worlds, from the worlds of form and dynasties, all the way down to our material dimension, which is as far down in the material plane as you can go. Now, we're not at first dimension or second dimension, we're at third dimension. We're actually more than that. But to say that we were born in a third dimension would be relevantly true. Okay? Relatively true. And it is relevant. Being born in the third dimension means that we left our spirit behind. Our first self. The self that was given life, wisdom, given all the attributes of deity. And then after that experience for some time, before the material worlds open up as an opportunity, the idea of moving into a world separate from the laws of the universe, having kind of like their own set of laws in the physical world, we had to create from there a soul, a vehicle for sensitive transformation, transfiguration, transmuting ideas, connecting information. So we needed a vehicle, a sensory vehicle, that would give us sense of sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, mind, consciousness, heart, glands, all the sentient electromagnetic properties of a human being or any other thing is what comes into being in this dimension. And it takes a kind of a copy of its original self as the core soul. So in other words, the soul is an intervening principle between spirit and personality. The soul is a vehicle within us and outside of us where we get our auras, our electromagnetic field. As I said before, our electromagnetic field comes out of our heart, back to our heart. We breathe it in, we breathe it out. This field is constantly moving. Same with the head. It's constantly moving. So we're putting out a perimeter of information inside temperament that is all being recorded on this magnetic field, moves through our body of memory, back out into the universe, and back into ourselves. So if I have an idea, per se, say I want to know something about my motive, if I concentrate on that, give my will, apply my will at heart to discovering my primary motive for existence, or my motive for doing anything during the day, we'll call that an act of intention. There are two types of meditation. One is intentional, and the others are all unintentional. So what I'm saying is, as a soul, as a vehicle within our physical body, we have the capacity through our sentient nature, our senses, to draw in information through impression. I see the impressions move through me. I feel the impressions. I feel the quality of that impression, the moodiness, the testament of that impression. I feel the vivification of that impression, if it's broad, if it's negative, if it's positive. I feel its caliber. We all do. We can even hear our sentient expression. We can pick up on impressions from others by listening to their voice, and we can identify whether or not it's a balanced tone, whether they're trying to persuade us, or whether they're just being completely honest. We have the ability to identify all of these impressions in our world, from our family, our home, our neighborhood, our world, and our planet, as well as our universe. All these things, like weather, gives us an impression every day. If you're temperamental, you may notice that on a sunny day you're happier, and on a cloudy day you're moodier. Well, the weather kind of matches our sentient modality as well, our moods, our mood states. So if you're one of those people who requires more sunlight to be in a better mood, then go ahead and imagine the beauty of sunlight before you get out of your bedroom, before you see what kind of a day it is, and set the pattern for yourself. Anyway, going back to our sentiency. We are highly sentiently developed beings. What I'm saying is we didn't come into being just yesterday. We've been around for a while. We've had an opportunity to look at ourselves, observe our world, And so we can say in common, we all have this in common, we all process information on a daily basis about our environment, the people involved in our environment, and a lot about ourselves. Remember the last time we talked, I showed you 3 circles of self. I said there was the mind, the voice, and the heart. We'll go into that in depth next class. But I just want you to know that sentiently, what we feel at heart gives us a visual in our mind. And then we can talk to ourselves about the vision, or the feeling, or about self-talk. But when you breathe in, our electromagnetic body is drawing information and energy in a full circle in and outside of ourselves. If we have access to information, say such an answer box or television, media, radio, anything, then we can draw those impressions into our life and make sense of them the same way we would as if we were in a room filled with people communicating with each other. It makes no difference. We seem to know automatically how to listen to a degree, how to understand the information. But what we don't understand is how to apply our own sentient nature to life. These are the things our parents didn't teach us. So let me go back and suggest, at the beginning of this universe, before we came into being, there was a program, let's say a fulfilling destiny for our universe, a hidden intent, a motive, if you will, a godlike motive for us to come into being and experience this separation from our true nature for a temporal period, to see how well we can do, to see what we can find out, what the differences are, what the uniquenesses are, how original it is, what are the variations, and to what degree. We love details. We love to find out new information. But that's what we're about. We came here to study our nature. Everyone did. Your neighbor, your children, someone in Russia, someone in Africa, all around the world. Everyone is the same when it comes to processing information. They are alive to become aware of their true nature. Now, a lot of it can be found in others if we're aware of that. Our parents didn't teach us to observe others to get a good idea of what we're about. They didn't say, if you go and listen to people who are negative, you can hear the frequency. And that's different than your mood because you're usually calm. And those differences should tell you something. Of course they do. They're variations. But no one's teaching us this. That's why it's up to you. You have to first understand that you're a sentient being, that you can identify information in your immediate environment, like you're sitting at home. What's the mood of your room? It doesn't have its own mood, but it has energy. What's your mood? If you start your day in a balanced mood, that's good for you. And let me tell you why. All practitioners, everyone trying to become one with their soul, will have started either with humility or with peace, balance, harmony as their primary word states. The words they want to feel most or first in their life. Why should they? Because it's very important to be grounded in a word that allows you to establish greater truths. So if I said, when you get up in the morning, put on your integrity. You might know what that means. That means if you're feeling integrity, wait until it's magnified enough that you understand its nature, that when you're filled with integrity, how are you differently than your usual nature? Integrity gives us a completed, comprehensive integration of all of our attributes in sum, the way we are, meaning our best ability for honesty, truth, clarity, transparency, justice, fairness, all comes from feeling balance or feeling love. When you're not feeling balanced, say you're feeling confused, you can use your heart and your mind to try to find the reason why you're not feeling balanced. But if you're just beginning, it's going to be very difficult. First of all, if you're feeling imbalanced, how will you find the answer? You have to be at peace, or at least harmony, balance, before you can come up with new conclusions. Because if you trade off your state of harmony for a state of disharmony, say confusion, then you know what's going to come up. Suggestions, impressions that might functionally help you, but There's no real conclusion as to the validity or the clarity behind it. There's no resolve. There's no sense of freedom now that you've got the answer, because you don't get an answer from confusion. You just get more confusion. If you want to go to the well of clarity, you start with love. And by feeling balance, harmony at heart, and love, just those three words, or even just one word, love, allowing yourself to be authentically balanced, then start thinking, yesterday I was confused. You can remember, but you don't have to trade. You don't have to change the way you feel at heart to investigate yesterday's conclusions. So you take the feeling you have of love, and you look at your confusion yesterday, and as long as you're in a state of love, it'll run right back to what you know best. I was out of balance. The truth will appear. Yes. Why were you out of balance? There'll be some motivation for it. That's further research. But just at the tip of the spear here, I'm trying to get you to understand that one thing, that we are impressionable beings, and our job is to process information every day. We should be going and getting experiences like coins, like magic or gold coins that you're going to put in a treasure chest at night, because they are actual experiences that will make you wiser. So we go out during the day, we have all these wonderful experiences. Before we go to bed at night, we ask ourselves a question. I'm at peace, I'm feeling harmony, now I want to know, how was my day? How did I fare having integrity today? Oh, there was one part where I kind of blew up, another part where I had a quick reaction but quickly recovered, another part was feeling down but realized I was slipping into my mind and got back to where I was. That's the kind of thing you'll find right away. In order to hang on to a mood, you have to concentrate on it. It has to be willful, and you have to understand the word as you experience it. So if I said to someone, ground yourself in integrity, they would know it means meditate, become the word. And once you have that word, all the things that we're going to talk about relative to our intention, our motives, etc., it'll all make perfect sense. Better than having no mood than waiting for the information to come and trying to dissect it. And that's the difference between those who have meditated and those who don't. Those who are grounded in integrity have a far better capacity for seeing things as they are, even if it's just begun. You'll find that if you maintain a rhythm of integrity at heart, that the rest of your day goes not too bad, but you'll also find yourself observing yourself and making mental notes of those times where you changed your mood and why. And eventually, it'll make enough sense to you, you'll say, no, I'm not leaving home without my integrity, and I'm going to sleep with it. When I wake up, I'll have it. It's going to be my constant rhythm. When you do that, you've really begun. And that's how the process begins. The authenticity and the willingness to try to remain in one state as long as possible, call it integrity, will give you a control over your motives, your intentions, your behavioral expression, your own concepts and ideas that'll be flooding your mind while you're communicating. It'll just give you basic balance in everything you do. That is what I mean by processing information for the sake of becoming wiser. The universe has laid out a pattern for us, a perfect process, a perfect pattern, and a perfect plan. It's said, in hindsight, before you go into being a human being, you're going to experience a world unlike this one. So you're coming from a world of absolute love, where everything is understood, where communication is had by all, and nothing is misunderstood. There is no fear, there is no false premise, there is no manipulation, there is no bias. None of these things that we consider negative tendencies. But when you come to Earth, while you're going to be separate from your spirit, you'll still have your soul, which will remind you of your nature. That's how you'll communicate with yourself while you're in form. Because you're not going to immerse completely, not yet. Just a little at a time until your soul wakes up, and then the immersion begins. So for now, we come into this world as a soul, and we grow our personality through information processing, through experience. Remember yesterday, or the last time we spoke, I said education and experience are synonymous. They are. And so is intention, motive, and integrity. They're also synonymous too, you'll find. Okay, going back to the big picture, we're in a sentient universe that communicates with itself. There is no space that is not intelligent. It is filled with light. All scientists will tell you that. There are waveforms we can't see and patterns we can't see, but nonetheless, the universe is alive and well, just like us. There is no place where the thing called death exists. There's no place where energy is depleted, run out, and gone. It's alive forever, transiting states and conditions, but never does it ever get lost. All the information in our universe, because of geometry, is designed in mind for us to pick up on the information gradually. Meaning, as a child, at an instinctive level, you're picking up on impressions related to your basic senses and your feelings and your eyesight. Now, a child takes about 3 months to gain clarity of their eyesight and begin picking out who is who. They can tell who mom is first. Much later, because of the tone of voice, they can tell who dad is and the siblings. But once they start to recognize, because of the pattern, repeat, 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 until it becomes a recognition. That's what we call our first idea. We grow from repetitive sensory patterns to the notion of an idea, a thought, a concept. And later on, after we looked at the concept 1,000 times, it becomes perceptual. And when we take our perceptions and review them 1,000 times, they become realized, meaning we don't have to build them anymore. They're automatic. We have it in our sight. If I perceive people to be divine, it's because I've worked my way up to it, from the thought to the idea, to the concept, to the perception, to the realization, to the moment of actualization, where now my brain is saying, there's a divine being. Well, everywhere. Yes, everything is divine. Everyone is root in this world is divine. But because people still think they're human, they miss all the great insights on our life. So it's up to the child to develop their senses, the sentient nature, to come up with basic ideas about who and what they are. And as they do this, they run into a hurdle, a problem, obstacles. Not everything is knowable at once. For example, you're 2 years old. Your parents come in the room with the siblings. They've just arrived from the grocery store and they're all excited about taking things apart. The babysitter says hello, and the 2-year-old's watching. And then suddenly the children are fighting over something that was in the groceries. They want it more than the other. The mother gets upset, dismisses them. They're all frustrated. They go away. One sitting on the couch, one in their bedroom, one crying at the table. And the little one, the 2-year-old, is watching this. Now, he doesn't know what's going on, of course, but he senses unhappiness very easily. Did you know your child can tell when there's no love in your face, in your eye, in your feeling, in your expression? When you try to hide the fact, when you're in a bad mood and you go, oh, hi, honey. Child can pick up on that. They know something's not right. It's not authentic. They don't know why. They just know. We're born with insights. This is something we've already earned previously. They start to appear in our consciousness after around the age of 2 to 3. We start to recognize that we can pick up on people who lack integrity, who lack conscience, morals, ethics, and principle. Now, a child doesn't know those words, but watching someone, they know what they did was not right, not fair. Why would we act that way? When someone yells, they know it's not healthy, it's not good. And eventually, they put meaning to these experiences that are incorrect. They think, oh, mom doesn't like me. But the next time mom comes, she's showing approval, the child forgets. A few weeks later, the mother gets upset at the child, and the child goes back to, mom doesn't like me. Eventually, the child catches on that mom has on and off days. So do the siblings. So does everyone else. So the child waits for the better times and tries to outlast and negative times. That's just a very rough idea. But what I want you to know yourself is that you need to know what your sentient nature is. You use it for processing information at heart through the organ of perception we call our heart. We use it to process information in our brain, in our mind, in our consciousness, using all the other senses. We also use our entire body to feel our environment and to offset all the experiences and rhythms and sounds that are interfering in our environment. If you're in the house, you hear traffic outside, you have to kind of push it away from use in order to concentrate on what you're studying. We can do that. We can eliminate some of the sensory implications and get to a quiet spot where we can study. But we know this, we sense this, it's just not something we know consciously. I used to do seminars and I would ask people from the beginning, pick a word, any word that describes any emotion, or something like personality, for example. Could you please describe it? People would say, okay, they know what it is at heart, unconsciously, but not consciously. Most of us learned our language before we were 7 years old. That's why our language is in our instinctive nature. That has moved up to our emotional nature as adults, and is now part of our mental nature as conscious adults. However, we may not have taken the meaning of those words and put them into our consciousness, so they're just sitting there at a less evolved state emotionally. So I say to someone, describe any word, conflict. We usually try to do the opposite. Well, it's the absence of, no, it means that we're not balanced. I get it. Words are important. Words, from what I found out, are actual essential beings. When you form a sentence, you're creating something. You're creating an impression, not meant to live forever, but enough for the individual to understand the sound vibration, the communication that you're making. And all this comes right out of our DNA, through our brain, through the technique of the language that our DNA and RNA have enacted, and now becomes an expression. Every word that you learn about yourself will either be correct or not quite up to par yet. So when we start talking about a person's sentient nature, that's where you're kind of stuck. You have to read into sentiency. You have to pick up a book, watch a show, pick up something on resonance. It's all about being a resonant, electromagnetic, sentient light being. Light is intelligence. Light and intelligence is electromagnetic, electric, magnetic resonance. So when I say you're intelligent, I'm saying your light intelligence has been taken in and used to mature you. You're a much more mature person, or you're this kind of individual that I can notice. You have authenticity, you're more honest, you're more objective. We notice what people have done with the light in their life, if it's a part of your language. Otherwise, we have to guess that they somehow came into information and through their own choice become a little bit better or more balanced than some people. We think, oh, maybe they had a better family or had money and they don't have these adverse reactions and dysfunctional homes. Well, that's not true. We have to do more than guess. Being sentient is being responsible. It means you are a living, intelligent being that has no end, that is presently taking in experience, processing those experiences, attempting to understand what they're all about. Now think of all the people that you know. Maybe there's 100, 200, and maybe you know 10 really well and one perfectly well. If you know one person as well as you know yourself, then you'll know everybody else. I used to say that to couples, if your wife understands you, and if you understand her completely from having been together for so long, then there won't be a woman the man won't understand. There won't be a man the woman won't understand. Because with honesty and eye-to-eye contact in a relationship, We share information so intimately that it helps us resolve our misperceptions, our misknowings, our misunderstandings, and just the things we hadn't learned. So we become more integrated, being in a cohesive relationship that works. And the opposite happens if you go into a relationship that doesn't work. You might become a little more confused. But that's only saying that education, that experience was to tell you you weren't sure what you did or what you were doing from the beginning. You weren't sure of your motives and your intentions, and you weren't grounded. And yeah, you desired a relationship and you wanted love in your life, but you weren't aware of what you needed in order for it to be secure and to last. You needed to understand each other's personality, each other's motives, each other's perceptions. If you don't share your view of reality with your partner, then they have to guess. And when they start guessing, it could be anything, which means they're going to guess that you're not always honest and you're not always capable and they can't always rely on you. That's what I'm saying. The more you know your language, the more you attempt to understand someone else because you love them, the more comprehensive you are about everyone else. There are 7 billion people in this world. I'll call them divine beings in human form. But for the sake of language, let's go with 7 billion people in this world. Now, do you know them all? You should. You could, but you don't. You know a few, and only to a certain degree. Let's take a look at everybody. When you meet someone, you go to a restaurant, you're having a glass of water, and you're watching someone else take a drink at the same moment. Observe. Do you know what that felt like for me? Yeah, you do. You know what the water felt like going down? Yes, you do. We have the same kind of nerve bundles, the same neurons, the same package. Now, you might be a little wiser than me, but that doesn't mean that you can't experience the same experience as me identically. You know, it's like to sit and listen to someone that you want to understand. So do I. Do you know what it feels like to wear a suit? Sure you do. You know what it feels like to go bare feet in the summer? Yes, you do. You know so much about other people, and it comes from just being you. What is the difference? You think there's a difference, but there's not. We are so identical, it's not funny. We are identical as souls. Some have more attributes because they might be a little more evolved, so they've manifested them. But that doesn't mean you can't manifest yours and be exactly the same. We are sameness. That's where we get the idea of oneness from. We're all experiencing the identical scenario. Now get up, have a day, the weather, the temperature, the environment, the people, the pressure, the conditions, our relationship to the environment, how we respond to it. Everyone going to bed at night, either at peace over their experience or not at peace over their daily experience. Aren't we all the same? Yes. If you hurt a child or if you accidentally embarrass a child, what do? They go to a private room, they sit down and they cry. And they work it out. I mean, why did they do that to me? It's not fun being a child, not having the answers, and having to try to figure out why people will go out of their way to act lovelessly or unjustly towards you. But the child gets the notion that this person is to be avoided. This person cannot be trusted. This person will no longer receive my love. They make the conclusion and they get on with their day. They don't necessarily feel any better. But each one of us has been forced to take our experience and reflect on it. If someone called you a name, hey idiot, when you were younger, what'd you do? You wondered if you were an idiot, if you were a moron, if you were a goof. All these weird names that we were called as children are all notions about our intelligence, our intelligent expression. When we say, you're a goof, what we're really saying is, something's wrong with you. What do you think the child thinks? something's wrong with me. They run to their mom, what's wrong with me? They can trust their mother. If not, they go to their room and cry. They run to someone else. But it's the same thing. What does that mean? Why put a child in that situation? Because you don't know yourself and you don't know the effect you're having on others. Because you're not aware of what you are as a sentient being. If you know that you're identical to everyone else, what is the difference? There's only one difference. Reaction. If I spill this glass of water, I'll end up cleaning it up. But you won't see me going, oh, I spilled water, sorry everybody. No, it just happens. Things happen. You don't have to have an adverse reaction. If you get told, oh, you don't get to go on your vacation this year because you don't have the money, what do? Okay, start saving for the vacation next year. Your response, your reaction, the way you deal with the impression is everything. In fact, I'll go further. The worst thing that can happen to you is the next impression. That's it. I know some of you have lots of fears. Let's imagine the worst. You're in the jungle on a safari. You have the idea you're already nervous, right? You're in a jungle, you're in a safari, and the windows are bulletproof. The roof is solid. You're okay as long as an elephant doesn't step on the truck. But the nervousness and apprehension you feel seeing live animals comes from what you've been taught about them. Otherwise, if you were raised around wild animals, you'd be in that vehicle, playing with them, wanting to get out. Yeah, and it might even have a relationship like the lion man does. Someone who's able to sentiently integrate with them without fear. In the absence of fear, the animals are a lot different towards us. They don't detect the potential for you to attack. It's the same thing if you ask men. Last time you got in a fight when you were younger, if you hadn't looked at each other with the intent showing in your eye to fight, you think you could have been avoided? Absolutely. If you're not showing your intent to harm, then how is anyone going to be aroused to want to respond to that? In other words, don't give them the reason to react. And be aware, everyone that is unaware of themselves is reactionary and can be, will be. It's like the word trust. I trust myself, and I trust everybody cannot be trusted until they know what it is. I don't expect people to be trustworthy. I don't rely on it. I rely on myself. When people are less than honest, less than truthful, or less trustworthy, I know it's part of the personality process. They haven't learned. They haven't picked up on being grounded in their integrity and the value of honesty and how far you can go with it. How there's no need to premeditate before going out if you have attribute, if it is your nature, to be balanced, honest, open, transparent, communicative, and liberated, free from opinion. That's how we all want to be. We want to be able to hear whatever anybody says and deal with it efficiently without it blowing us up, without it creating new problems. Well, it begins by you saying, I'm going to set a new agenda today. I'm going to make my life very important. So far, from what I understand, I don't know myself. That's a good start. But I'm willing to be honest with myself, completely honest. That's an even better start. So I'll try that word integrity you suggested. Bingo, you're home. As long as you have the intention, motivation, the desire to want to be one, or to know yourself, or to prove your soul, or to be one with God, or to attain to your enlightenment, or attain to the ascension, as long as you have that as your primary motive in your general life, overall, integrity suits you everywhere. Why not start with it? It's the first word I was taught besides truth. I was taught a series of minor words so I'd get the understanding of how to process information. And I'll help you with that too. But integrity was my first word. And the absence of having that balance through integrity in my life is what I recognized I lacked. I took honesty. You can admit that to yourself. But you can't even imagine, I'll tell you that. But when you start maintaining a rhythm at heart, you get up and you say, that's the word integrity. That's what it feels like. I'm going to keep it all day. And observe yourself. If you can do it for more than a week, your integrity will become perceptual. After 10 days, it'll become realized. It only takes a couple of weeks for you to work on a word, magnify it, think on it, actualize it, and become true to it. In other words, a word that's true to your nature, if you are an integral being of value, of worth, if you are honest, if you can be caring, loving, then all these words will make perfect sense to you as you bring them up and compare them to past behaviors. What were you doing? What were you feeling when you got mad at your last friend and broke up with them? And do you know why? You might have to resolve your conscience to find out. But what I'm saying is, you can know without having to wait and think it overnight, as long as you've got the word at heart. You can tell when you lack it, when it's not quite up to par, when your integrity can be questioned because you're daydreaming about something else, or when your integrity is questioned because you're biased and envious and jealous and you didn't notice you lost your integrity through judgment. But that's what happens. You become judgmental, your integrity is gone. You have to go back, forget everything, get your integrity back, put it back on, and then ask yourself how you lost it. This is our condition. This is our nature. The universe gives us a law. I call it the law of accountability. In other words, what I'm saying is, even at a fractal level or geometric level, photons, muons, particles all work according to law. In other words, put one hot body and one cold body together, you know what happens. The cold body will drain off into the hot body. The hot body will drain off into the cold. They'll equalize. They'll help each other. The particles in our universe are constantly weighing in on each other, sharing information, maintaining balance naturally, instinctively. That's their 1 sense ratio of being in the present dimension. So what I'm saying is, everything is intelligent, everything is balanced. The only thing that's out of balance are those who can be, by choice. You can choose to be rude, to be ignorant, to be humiliating, to be evil, to be dark, to have dark tendencies, versus optimism, objectivity, principle nature, principle expression, beneficial expression, like integrity, love, compassion, honesty, mercy, uh, benevolence. These are all words that explain our true nature, our soul. When you think of the other words, uh, temptation and control and management, manipulation, well, the soul doesn't manipulate, but a personality does. This can help a lot to understand. Your soul is a vehicle, but the soul is connected to your spirit's intelligence. Your spirit does not force you to learn anything. Your information, your just being alive is what it takes. This is how the law of accountability works. You get information, you can ignore it, or you can pay attention. That's our free will. With free will, we can choose to pay attention to the good nature or the dark nature. Your choice. To build on either. To build away from the dark and into the or into the dark, away from the light, or into the light, away from the dark. Our choice. Our animal nature, as I said before, is what we have to overcome, because the attributes of our soul that are positive are ours and can't be altered. They can't be taken away, can't be changed. They're yours. When you ask yourself, what's my true nature? True nature is being truthful, honest, open, transparent, clear, resolved, balanced, happy, objective, joyful, We'll find beauty, we'll find compliment, we'll find the ability to communicate and cooperate rather than to destroy. As I said, I'm going to bring a set of words next time I do one. We'll say 2 classes from now. I'll put up all the words on the left and the right, the good attributes and the ones that we learn by happenstance that are a result of the animal nature. When the animal you is in charge of your life, it's aggressive, it's negative, it's punishing, it's critical. It wants to do harm, it wants to stand out, it wants to be seen and perceived. It's filled with pride, envy, jealousy, and arrogance. That's not you. That's not your true nature. The true you is selfless, loving, caring, selfless enough to put down its life for you, caring enough to reach out to anyone and everyone, regardless of their level of attainment. You understand what I'm saying? There are 2 distinct natures in one in our body. And the law of accountability is what we can rely on to help us understand when we are incorrect. In other words, the universe, I'll give you an example. Boy meets girl. Both, let's put them at 17 years old. Neither of them have had any sexual experience, but they're going out tonight to a prom. The girl knows that she's going to have a date with this guy. They've only seen each other in class, but never got to know each other. He's happy that she's going with him. He's excited. They both get to the prom. Remember, they're 17 years old. So, instinctive, emotional, biologically, you know where they stand. They find each other attractive. As the night goes on, they talk, they become friends. And at the end of the night, they go their ways, but promise to meet each other again. That is one memory with a positive in it that stays at heart. The next time they meet, that memory comes up and they smile at each other because that was the last feeling they had in memory about each other. Now the girl might have gone home and thought more into it and, oh, I like him a lot, he's wonderful. And so the feeling's even better. And he might have done the same thing too. Or he could have left it the way it was. Either way, they're in a positive state because according to the law of accountability, the way you feel emotionally when you have a thought, when you make that conclusion, that's the belief and the conditioning. It will remain the same until you change it. So if you believe you are happy, it stays that way. Now, after 5 dates, there's been a few questions about the girl's interest, how far that's going to go, and the boy's interest, how intentional and how serious it is. They get to the point where they have a conversation about maybe going to the next step. He wants to be intimate. She'd like to be intimate. She wants to wait. He's in a hurry. He'll compromise and wait. She's happy. But she doesn't know how long. So already, she's already created a new condition in her memory. After 5 times of meeting, a plus, 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 she feels great. But now she's worried about her sexual interaction. And that puts question into her memory. The next date, call it the 6th date, they actually go out and they talk about it. He says he never wants to have kids, or at least not till he's 50. And she wonders if that's a part of her agenda or not. And they talk about it and she goes home. That's another question. Instead of a full positive, she's got a neutral, 2 neutrals, and 5 positives. He's got 7 positives. They get together for the 8th time. And this time she sees him looking around at another woman or another girl in the audience in the restaurant that they're at. What happens? She's a little bit jealous, which would be natural. She goes home, questions him thoroughly, wonders why he's paying attention to other girls. The next time they get together, she questions whether or not he's serious, whether or not they're going to really go through and having a longer relationship, and whether or not he's still interested in other girls. He reassures her he's not. It still doesn't convince her, but he's got 8 pluses, and she's got 5 plus now, we'll say 5 plus 3 neutrals and 1 very big question. The next time, if they have a disagreement, a slight argument, or if either of them become jealous, envious, or critical of each other, my God, that will change everything. According to the law of accountability, once you bond, you have love. Once you lose that bond, that love, that trust, that truth diminishes equally. So if you're in love with someone, even just a little, and you trust them, and you believe there's truth in what you're doing, then when you start to question their motives for everything they're doing, or you find the fault, it changes the history and the memory and takes away all the good feelings and puts them down into a question. We will not advance further until we have assurance that this will be more like the positive we've already had before. Our memory starts controlling us. Our beliefs start changing the way we feel. You get a new belief. I don't know if I can trust him. I don't know if he'll. Well, then the way you feel about him will have to be either altered, or you'll have to find the answer to those questions to preserve what you have and go on. You get the idea. You can go at this for a whole day, working out a year's relationship where they finally break up because there's no trust, there's no love, and the truth is gone for them. And they spent 2 years wondering, why did we ever break up? Why did we ever get together? What was our motive? What was our motive for leaving? You can say, well, I didn't think it was going to work out. And that would be more honest because that's what your memories are telling you. You don't know if you can trust this guy based on your hidden agenda. So we all have an agenda, whether we know it or not. We go back and look at these two people and we ask them, the female, did you have an agenda for the idea of a future, a relationship, what you want from it? Oh, yeah. What did you hope to achieve through your relationship? Oh, we were hoping to get good jobs, good education, nice house, a car, raise a family, and vacation to Hawaii. When we're older. Ask the guy the same thing. Oh, I'm thinking I've still got to go to university. I'm not done. I got to pay for all that. But if it works out after that, well, then maybe we'll stick together. Da 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 da. You can see the agenda is different. Even though they met and were willing to fall in love, he still has interest in doing what he's doing. Now, she'll come along with him and support him when he goes to university. That would probably be fine. Same with her. But the hidden agenda, wanting at least as much as what their parents had, wanting security ahead of time, these hidden motives can interfere with your natural ability just to communicate with a person. I'm going to leave that with you. We're going to come back. I want to talk more about this. That was accountability. But we've talked enough, I think, on the sentiency. We'll start applying it more in the future. And there was the part of the science of impression. I want to go deeply into that as we go. So until next time, have a great day, gracious peace, and thank you for returning. P.S. If you'd like to talk to me, there's an email. Get in touch with me. If you want a session privately, they're not expensive. Go ahead and call me. If you'd like to join the classes that I'm going to be offering when this is over, in about a month I'll be starting, and you can come to Q&A nights and say, well, I took your course and I was on number 3. I'd like to ask questions about that. Come on in. I'm making it available so anybody who wants to know anything about their true nature, that's willing to work on it, if they haven't already achieved it, then you can support us, I suppose, and help us. But for those who really want to know, who need to get some breakthrough answers, give me a call. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye for now.